So I just wanted to update you on some of the realizations I've had recently. A lot of you related to my video about being too nice and that hiding anxiety, even though I didn't realize that's what I was doing. And this has had quite a big impact on my life and kind of internal situation, even though it's only been like a day or two. I have been trying to be much calmer around interactions, but it's so hard because I've had a lot of trauma around groups of people and friendships, like real like pretty bad stuff has happened quite a lot in lots of different friendship groups. So it means that it's so hard to like switch off those responses. Some other people have kind of commented about how it sounds like a fawn response as well, and there's also friendly in like the fight, freeze, fawn. It's friendly, which sounds like it as well. But yeah, I have managed it and I have felt it like be better in social situations because I'm calmer and like chilling out with being overly nice or forced nice. But as one of my friends said, it's like we don't want to get to a situation where I'm like berating myself because I'm being too nice. So I'm trying to not do that. It's a bit weird because whenever I'm nice, I'm like, is this me being nice or is this being nice? Or, you know what I mean? I'm just like, what kind of niceness is it? Anyway, so yeah, and I also talked about it with my therapist because my therapist was like, this sounds like a big deal for you and like a quite a big revelation. I'm just gonna look at my notes and kind of talk you through some of the things in case it's useful for you. So yeah, we talked about one of the things about feeling like I'm evil and that other people needed to be protected from me, and that one of my coping mechanisms therefore is that I decided very young that I was going to be happy and bubbly all the time. She was also saying, my therapist, was that when you're doing a pattern, it's really hard to stop it. It's basically impossible to stop something unless you start doing something else kind of in replace of that. So we talked about what I was going to do in order to kind of replace that behavior. And really what it seems I need to do is to be much calmer in these very turmoily places for me, which is out in the world and interacting with others and being around other people. So yeah, you know, because I think not only is the kind of me being autistic playing a lot of big roles here, but also a lot of trauma from my childhood, but also from groups of people. There's quite a lot to change, and I think it's going to be a long process, and I think it feels like a real climb uphill, but I think the benefits are going to be amazing. So some of the unwanted effects of me being like forced nice to hide my anxiety because I'm feeling nervous in these situations is that some people can see that I'm anxious. I also have felt and seen people react to my anxiety, whether that's taking advantage of it or taking it personally, and then it kind of starts kind of spiraling into more negative interactions, which is a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because then I'm like, then that kind of stuff happens again and I'm like, like difficult things are happening to me, and I'm like, now I'm just like, please, I just need to like survive without people bullying me and kind of getting at me, you know. Some people are mean because I'm so energetic and so kind of OTT and so nice. Some people are mean because of that. Also, it kind of feels like a performance, and again, like everything could be considered a performance. Everyone does perform, but then this is like even more extreme, so that takes up a lot of energy. But it also kind of makes you feel quite dehumanized, and it kind of contributes to identity problems. Again, this is more nuanced because identity is fluid. Malleable identities are valid, and I am quite comfortable being malleable as an identity. Lots of autistic people have that. Again, lots of trans people have that. Technically everyone has that, but it's still difficult with identity problems when you're like, you've been taught all these things at a young age and you're trying to be yourself, but then yourself is actually a trauma response and you're just like, well, what does that mean? Like, who actually am I? And that's a recurring theme in my life, which I don't really mind, but it will be nice to, I would love to just get to a place where I know that and I feel that, but I don't know if that's possible, but I hope so, basically. And I also think it feeds into like ideas about hating myself. And firstly, you've got the initial stuff of feeling evil and negative and like worthless from the other stuff I've already talked about that I'm already addressing. But then if you feel dislocated from who you are all the time, then I think that kind of makes it worse. Knowing who I am, as I've said before. Also, I think it makes things more intense. I think it makes me more intense. And I think, even though I think there's something to be said about valuing intensity and our culture getting to a place where intense people and experiences aren't so shamed, At the same time, not everyone can handle intensity, and that needs to be understood and respected as well. Like, I can't handle super intense people and times all the time, or, you know, I just think there's a balance there that I need to achieve as well. So I think the fact that these coping mechanisms make me very intense and my expression is very intense, I think it limits my social kind of appealingness. I don't know, I'm still a bit like, it doesn't really, I don't know, I feel a bit like, well, who cares kind of thing. But I do think there's something to be said about all that. You know, I've met someone who was like so intense and so intense about their mental health that it was like really bad and dangerous for me. So, you know, I just think there needs to be a balance here. And I think being more calm and not doing the overly niceness will help. Even though some of it is wrapped up in like my natural autistic stims, which can be loud, which can be OTT, which can be nice. Like, I hope I'm genuinely, that underneath everything, actually a nice person. I do worry about that as well. But then, like, if I'm OTT or doing my autistic stims very loudly and obviously, I think that just makes me more of a target, which has definitely happened quite a lot. People like laughing at me, people imitating me, people being fucking dicks, basically. And then again, like I said, it feeds into me being like, everyone's out to get me, like I can't. Then that builds that anxiety up more, right? And then I'm like, now I'm just anxious about literally everyone I meet. And afterwards, you know, and that's very hard to manage and maintain, which, you know, you shouldn't maintain it, it needs to be addressed. I've been trying to address it for like quite a few years now, and this is something that I'm really like hopeful about, that's going to really help. Yeah, and as I've said, I think some people get upset when I'm anxious and they can sense me being anxious. It's difficult because you're like, naturally, a lot of people are anxious. A lot of people with hypermobility spectrum disorder, it seems like a lot of their biological structure in their bodies actually provoke an anxious state of being. So you don't necessarily want to be like, oh, well, you just shouldn't be anxious around people. Actually, I think people need to accept anxious people. People need to like learn how to cultivate a safe space for them and make them feel better. You know, I think that's a massive part of this, but I can't change people and I can't change the culture and society around me. Maybe like a tiny little bit, but do you see what I mean? It's important to see that actually my anxiety can upset other people. And also, if you're a marginalized person, or if you're someone that has injustice sensitivity or rejection sensitivity, you can also interpret other people's anxiety super badly. So I have had to explain it to everyone. Sometimes I'm super open with my anxiety because I'm trying to reassure people that it's not because of them, and it's not because I'm like upset to be around them. I'm just generally freaking out. I'm not going to pretend that I can never be oppressive, but I just want to kind of show how this is another unwanted effect from being overly nice and being like super kind of accommodating of everyone else, like at the expense of my own needs, and like forced nice because of everything I've already covered. Yeah, so alternative coping mechanisms include breathing, emotional regulation, working to reduce my anxieties, and all the tools that I've already have. And it's interesting because there's something in DBT called opposite action, which is when you're like upset, when you don't want to go out, for example, you make yourself go out, but you also make yourself think, I want to go out, this is amazing. So my opposite action in this situation, if I have an urge to be forced nice, what is the opposite of that? That would be, because of anxiety, that would be forcing myself to like start being calmer in that situation and breathing and feeling into the present. So that's another thing that I can do to help this as well. One of the reasons why it's such a crucial point for me is because before, during, and after socializing, it's incredibly painful for me. And I think this is probably a central reason why that is the case, because I'm doing so much energy-wise that it feels like a massive, massive deal every time. Whereas if I could just be chill and just accept that I'm great and the interactions were great and that everyone enjoyed my company and it was fine, and even if they didn't, then fuck them. Like, that would be a massive answer to so many problems in my life. So I am super excited. I feel a bit emotional because it is a real massive deal, and it has been a massive problem for me, like OCDing a lot about stuff with socially interacting and not feeling safe, and it's taken up a huge amount of my time and energy and mind, and I'm just like super desperate for it to change. So yes, yay! Oop, I don't know why. Yay! Yay, mind and equality. Boom. Boop.